Let us begin with a truth so potent it could rearrange the trajectory of your destiny. The man who masters his mornings masters his mind, and the man who masters his mind becomes the ruler of circumstance, not its victim. For the secret of all success, all wealth, all fulfillment, lies not in luck or opportunity or accident, but in the rigorous command of one's inner world before the world outside even has a chance to speak. Now listen closely, for what I am about to reveal is not for the ordinary. This is not for the man who sleeps through his potential, who waits for motivation to arrive like the wind. This is for the man who is ready to wake up not just from sleep, but from the deep hypnosis of mediocrity. If you are to rise, truly rise above the noise, the fear, the indecision, the weakness, you must begin not with your hands, but with your habits, not with action, but with attention, not with striving, but with structure. I did not become wealthy by chance. I did not stumble into success like a blind beggar who finds a coin in the dirt. I designed it. I demanded it. I disciplined it into being. And I did it beginning with the first hour of every single day. A man's habits in the morning are a window into his character. They reveal whether he is a creature of chaos or a commander of consciousness, whether he bows to the whims of emotion or stands like a general upon the battlefield of thought. Every morning you have a choice, to be ruled by reaction or guided by reason, to follow the masses, or to rise with mastery. These 10 habits are not rituals of comfort, but weapons of construction. They are not trends, but timeless principles. They are not suggestions, but systems for dominion. If you follow them, not occasionally, but with sacred consistency, you will find that success is not a mystery, it is mechanical. You will find that wealth is not outside of you, it is the result of mastering what is within. Habit 1. Rise before the world begins to demand you. The hour between 4 and 6 a.m. is the hour when the world is still asleep and only the committed are awake. It is in this silence that the millionaire mindset is forged. Not with noise, not with distraction, but with intention. Most men rise when the world pulls them. Their alarm is the voice of obligation. They wake only to survive another day. But the man who wakes by his own design is not surviving, he is shaping. He who rises early does not merely gain hours, he gains command. He wakes before the demands of life can touch him, before emails, before messages, before obligations. He begins the day with clarity instead of confusion, with intention instead of interruption. If you do not rise by design, you will fall by default. And every empire that fell first in the habits of its builder. Habit 2. Sit in stillness and meet the mind. Before you do anything, before the phone, before the plans, before the hustle, sit. Not to rest, but to meet yourself. For 15 minutes, sit in complete stillness and confront your thoughts like a master. Watch how your mind pulls you toward old habits, old fears, unfinished business. Let it all arise, but do not follow. This is the practice of detachment, to see the mind but not obey it, to hear the fear but not be ruled by it, to observe the emotion but not become it. Most people avoid silence because they are afraid of what it will reveal, but the man who becomes rich learns to dwell in silence like a monk before war. He does not run from the noise within, he studies it, and by studying it, he transcends it. This habit teaches you the most powerful law in psychology. You are not your thoughts, you are the thinker. You are not your emotion, you are the master that may command or ignore it. And he who knows this walks through life unshaken. Habit 3. Define the day or be defined by it. Success is not built on vague hopes, it is built on precision. Before the day begins, write down with absolute clarity what must be accomplished. Define the top 3 objectives that align with your definite purpose. Do not begin your day until your day is constructed. A mind without a mission becomes a weapon against itself, but a man with a plan, he moves through life like a sculptor with a chisel, cutting away the unnecessary, revealing the essential. If you do not name the task, you will wander. If you do not control the target, you will be controlled by distraction. Wealth is not the result of motion, it is the result of direction. And direction requires thought. Every minute you spend in planning, said one master, saves 10 in execution. But more than time, it saves your soul from the drift of mediocrity. Habit 4. Speak power into your mind through autosuggestion. Once your tasks are clear, it is time to speak not to others, but to your subconscious. This is the principle of autosuggestion. Write and read aloud your chief aim. Declare your desired income. Affirm your discipline. Do not whisper. Speak with the voice of command. You are not asking, you are instructing. You are not hoping, you are reprogramming. The subconscious mind is like a fertile field. Whatever seed you plant, be it doubt or determination, will grow. Speak life, and life will obey. Speak weakness, and weakness will deepen its grip. If you would become a millionaire, speak as one, not to impress others, but to instruct yourself. For faith is not merely belief, it is belief expressed and made real by repetition. Your words shape your identity, and your identity determines what you allow, what you expect, and what you attract. Habit 5. Read the wisdom of those who already walked the path. Before the world fills your mind with nonsense, fill it with truth. Spend 15 minutes reading from the giants of achievement: Hill, Carnegie, Emerson, Marcus Aurelius. Do not just read for information, read for calibration. Let their minds sharpen yours. Let their discipline correct yours. Let their clarity burn away your confusion. Books are mentors that do not sleep. Principles do not expire. And the man who feeds on wisdom in the morning builds an immune system against mediocrity for the entire day. Do not read news. Read laws. Do not read opinion. Read insight. For what you read in the first hour is the lens through which you will see every problem, every opportunity, every choice. This habit is simple, but it separates the rich from the restless. It is the difference between a man who reacts and a man who responds from a place of depth. Habit 6. Move the body to train the mind. Discipline is not theory. It is physical. It is embodied. Every morning, engage in physical exertion, not for vanity, but for mastery. When you force the body to move, the mind follows. When you sweat, you purify your hesitations. When you strain, you forge new strength, not just in muscle, but in mind. The man who skips discipline in the body will lack discipline in his decisions. For the man who cannot conquer 10 push-ups will not conquer 10 rejections. The body is the proving ground of the will. You need not be an athlete, but you must be a commander. Not of others, but of your flesh. For if you cannot command your own arms and legs, how will you command your destiny? Strength is not about how much you lift, it is about how much you control. And this habit done every morning teaches you the most powerful lesson of all. Pain is not your enemy, it is your servant. Habit 7. Write from the future into the present. Now that your body is awakened and your mind is sharp, take pen to paper. Not to record what is, but to declare what shall be. This is the habit of vision in written form. Most men use journals as confessions of failure, but the rich use them as declarations of destiny. Every morning, write in the voice of a man who has already become who he intends to be. I am a millionaire because I create massive value. I am disciplined, focused, calm, intentional. I do not chase money. I magnetize it through clarity and service. These are not lies. These are scripts, and the man who does not write his own script will end up acting in someone else's tragedy. Writing is not for therapy, it is for direction. What you write, you internalize. What you internalize, you become. And what you become will echo in every decision, every deal, every result. A man who does not write his vision will lose it in the noise of the day. But the man who affirms it, morning by morning, becomes a mirror of the very future he once dreamed. Habit 8. Practice the law of mental neutrality. Before you open the gates of the world, take a moment to enter a state most powerful and rare neutrality. Not indifference, not apathy, but detachment. This is the silent space where power lives. It is the space between stimulus and response, between offense and action, between the insult and your decision to ignore it. The mind that reacts is the mind that forfeits control, but the mind that observes before it chooses that is the mind that builds empires. You must each morning remind yourself, I will not be owned by emotion. I will not trade my peace for petty conflict. I will not allow other people's urgency to become my panic. This is not weakness, it is the greatest strength. Emotional detachment is the secret behind every calm negotiator, every powerful leader, every unshakable investor. They do not respond to the market, they respond to principles. And you, if you wish to be rich not only in money but in mind, must learn to observe your thoughts without becoming them. The world will scream, let it. You will walk forward unaffected. Habit 9. Take one act of courage before the world interferes. Every morning, while the rest of the world is still negotiating with their fears, take one bold action, one message sent, one pitch delivered, one phone call made, one truth spoken. This is how the day begins, with triumph not waiting. Action is not to be postponed until you feel ready. Readiness is an illusion. Courage is the habit. There is power in movement, not chaotic movement, but intentional advancement. For every man you admire, every success you envy, was built upon daily acts of disciplined boldness. Do not wait for motivation. Create it by moving. Do not wait for opportunity. Call it forth by daring. He who begins the day by conquering fear, no matter how small, will build a life where fear is no longer the ruler but the servant. And this habit will compound in courage until your entire life becomes a monument to initiative. Habit 10. Guard the gates before the world enters. Finally, before the door is opened, before the phone is unlocked, before the emails are read, stand guard. You are the gatekeeper of your mind. And not everything deserves entry. You would not allow a thief into your home. Why then allow doubt into your mind? Why allow envy, fear, distraction, and noise to enter through your morning screen? You must guard the inputs, because what enters stays, and what stays shapes you. Most people wake up and scroll through a flood of irrelevant data, news, gossip, comparison. They fill their first hour with mental poison, then wonder why the rest of the day is anxious and unproductive. But the man who protects his mental gates, he moves with clarity. He thinks with independence. He decides with power. Your life is a reflection of your inner world, and your inner world is built in the morning. Protect it like a soldier protects a sacred temple. Let in only what strengthens. Reject all else. Now listen, for this is the turning point. These habits are not magic. They are mechanisms. They do not work if done once. They work if lived. And let there be no confusion. Consistency is the bridge between knowledge and destiny. You may understand these habits. You may agree with them. But if you do not practice them, you will remain in the same place, speaking the language of potential, but never walking in its power. I am not rich because I was lucky. I am not successful because I had perfect conditions. I am wealthy because I became a master of my morning. And in mastering my morning, I mastered myself. I made the hard choices. I fought the mental battles. I trained the invisible muscles of focus, detachment, clarity, and direction. And now I no longer chase wealth. I attract it, because wealth is the byproduct of disciplined thoughts and aligned action. It comes not to those who want it. It comes to those who deserve it. You have within you the same power, the same capacity, the same spark, but you must feed that spark with structure, with standards, with sacred routines. 10 habits. One morning, infinite results. Rise, think, plan, declare, move, observe, write, act, guard, and above all, command. For he who commands his morning commands his mind, and he who commands his mind commands his life. The moment you begin to master these 10 habits, not merely repeat them, but forge them into the very marrow of your behavior, you step into a rare category of man, a man no longer ruled by the outer world, a man no longer swayed by opinions, chaos, or circumstance, a man no longer seduced by the trivial or imprisoned by emotional volatility. You become a man forged by rhythm, a man of cadence, a man who builds before the world wakes and leads while others stumble. The habits are simple, but simplicity is where most men fail. They want complex strategies, shiny tactics, new tools, but the builders of empires know this truth. Mastery is repetition of the fundamentals executed with discipline and soul. And so now we descend deeper, not into more habits, but into the engine behind them. For habits are not isolated events. They are the footprints of inner laws. And if you do not understand these laws, the habits will fade like dust under the heat of distraction. Let us now name the invisible machinery beneath your rituals. The law of definite purpose. Behind every habit of a wealthy man is a guiding flame, a purpose not vague but definite. This is the first cause, the beginning of all greatness. Without it, your mornings are rituals without direction. With it, every action becomes a missile locked on target. To become rich in any form, money, mastery, meaning you must know exactly what you want, not someday, not more, not better, number. You must define it with precision. I will earn $1 million by date in exchange for the service of value. Not I wish, not I hope, I will. Why does this matter? Because the subconscious mind obeys specificity. It organizes your energy, filters your perception, and awakens opportunity based on clarity. Without definite purpose, you are a leaf in the wind. With it, you are the wind itself. Every morning habit you practice must serve your definite chief aim. Every repetition must affirm it. Every choice must align with it. And if your actions and your aim are at war, you will know this by the tension in your soul. For success begins not with movement, but with unity. And unity begins with a purpose that cannot be debated. The principle of thought before action. Most people act without thinking. They run, react, hustle, post, comment, text, call, panic, then wonder why they're exhausted and poor. But the man who builds legacy, he is deliberate. He is not fast, he is clear. This principle rules the minds of the elite. They understand thought precedes form, belief precedes achievement. All results are born from thought. So what do? They protect the thought space. They rise in silence. They prime their beliefs. They rehearse outcomes in the theater of imagination before they act in the world of form. Their first victory is always invisible, always mental. If you would achieve uncommon wealth, you must become master of thought before master of strategy. And if you would become master of thought, you must create a morning so intentional, so sacred, that no lesser energy can invade it. The principle of emotional dominion. Here lies the buried treasure few ever discover. Emotional detachment is not indifference. It is elevation. It is the ability to feel without being led, to observe without being owned, to respond without the need to retaliate. Every morning you face two choices: be led by emotion or lead your emotions. He who is reactive is the slave of circumstance, but he who is calm is king. Do you want to know what makes a millionaire walk into a room with gravity? It is not the suit, not the posture. It is the mastery of internal state. He is not faking confidence, he is commanding it. Emotions are tools, not truths. They are data, not dictators. To master them, you must begin early, before the world pokes at your ego, before someone cuts you off in traffic, before the deal falls through, before the comment insults you. Detach, breathe, recenter, observe. Do not react, respond. Speak from stillness. Decide from principle. Move from vision, not mood. And if you stumble, begin again the next morning. The mind is clay, but it hardens with habit, and you are the sculptor. The principle of auto-suggestion. You must never underestimate the mind's obedience to repetition. What you say to yourself, especially when your brain is most impressionable upon waking, becomes your truth, not just metaphorically, biologically. Neuroscience now confirms what the ancient sages knew. Affirmations, repeated with emotion and clarity, create new neural pathways. That is not motivation, that is mechanism. So why do the masses remain poor in spirit, mind, and bank account? Because they allow the language of weakness to pollute their internal world. I'm tired. I can't. I'm not good enough. I'll try. These phrases are the bricks of failure. Every morning, I declared what I would become. Not quietly, not passively, but with fire. I am a disciplined millionaire who commands time and creates value. I did not believe it at first, but I said it anyway, and belief followed behavior. Do not wait for certainty. Speak what you intend, and keep speaking it until it is impossible for your subconscious to disagree. The law of mental environment. No garden grows by accident. No mind stays clean by default. The environment must be curated. The input must be filtered. What you allow into your mind, especially in the sacred morning, becomes the soil of your results. Most men allow digital sewage to flood their senses before the sun has risen. News alerts, social media envy, celebrity gossip, fear propaganda. They feed on it like beggars at a poisoned banquet. But the few, the wise, the rich in thought and discipline, they guard their mental temple. No junk, no noise, only that which builds clarity, conviction, and creativity. Read only from the best. Speak only with intention. Feed only on timeless truths. The results are not just better thinking, they are better instincts, better opportunities, better decisions. Your input determines your output. Protect it. The principle of delayed emotion, immediate discipline. This is one of the rarest principles of all, and it is the one that transforms men from potential into power. You see, the average man does what he feels like doing. The uncommon man does what must be done, regardless of feeling. Discipline is not born in grand speeches. It is born in the moment you choose to do what's right over what's easy. And the training ground for this? The morning. When the alarm rings and your body protests, get up. When the journal seems pointless, write. When the workout burns, continue. When fear whispers you're not ready, act anyway. Every morning decision is a vote for your future. You do not become rich by one bold move. You become rich by 1,000 micro decisions aligned with destiny. Your job is not to feel motivated. Your job is to become immune to emotion when it conflicts with principle. That is power. And that is the very edge where the rich separate from the rest. The final revelation: rituals make the man. You are not your goals. You are not your desires. You are not your dreams. You are your habits. You are your rituals. You are your daily identity made visible. If you want to change your income, change your morning. If you want to change your confidence, change your rituals. If you want to change your entire existence, begin before the world even opens its eyes. Because the man who wins the first hour wins the day, wins the month, wins the year, and ultimately wins his freedom. There are men who wake up and check their messages, and there are men who wake up and check their mission. There are men who scroll, and there are men who sculpt. Every morning you are rehearsing either greatness or decline. There is no neutral, no habit is wasted. It is either compounding in your favor or compounding against you. One thought leads to one word. One word leads to one decision. One decision alters the entire path of a life. And the ones who know this truth do not leave their mornings to chance. They do not wing it. They architect it. They engineer it. They protect it like a sacred temple from which every other blessing flows. A man without morning discipline is like a captain who never sets a course. He may drift, he may float, but he will never arrive. And he will curse the winds, the waves, the weather, never realizing it was his own laziness that sealed his fate. But a man with morning rituals, he is not subject to fate. He commands his destiny with foresight. He builds it hour by hour, layer by layer, decision by decision. His life is not a reaction to the world, it is a result of dominion over himself. The unseen war between order and chaos. Understand this deeply. Every morning is a battlefield, and the war is not outside, it is inside. The war between higher order and lower nature, between your calling and your cravings, between the architect and the addict. One wants discipline, the other wants comfort, one wants structure. The other wants stimulation. One wants legacy. The other wants momentary ease. You will not defeat your lower self by chance. You must defeat it by structure. The rich do not trust their willpower, they trust their habits. Their rituals are built to win the war before the temptation even arrives. You do not negotiate with chaos. You replace it with clarity. You do not argue with weakness. You drown it with discipline. You do not hope to avoid distractions. You smother them beneath structure. That is why the morning is your fortress. The earlier you rise, the less pull the lower self has. Because at that hour, before the voices of the world awaken, you are closest to your essence, closest to your original power, your unshaken identity. The philosophy of the morning millionaire. The man who rises with purpose does not belong to the world. He belongs to principle. His identity is not decided by his past, nor his emotions, nor his critics. It is sculpted each morning with intention, affirmation, movement, and command. He wakes not because he must, but because he chooses to. He speaks not because he is confident, but because he is becoming so. He trains not because he likes it, but because he refuses to be weak. He writes not because it feels good, but because it aligns him with vision. He acts not in response to pleasure, but in service of purpose. This is not ego, it is power. And power, rightly directed, is the moral responsibility of every man with a dream. Wealth is an outcome of rhythm. Too many chase money as if it were the goal. But money is not the root, it is the fruit. Money is the byproduct of value, and value is the byproduct of rhythm, and rhythm is created in the morning. Every great man in history, every inventor, writer, statesman, tycoon, philosopher, they were all creatures of sacred morning routine. Benjamin Franklin planned his day before sunrise. Marcus Aurelius journaled at dawn. Thomas Edison began his days in solitude. And you? You wish to build legacy? Then do not ask what they had, ask how they lived. Do you think it coincidence that millionaires are early risers, that disciplined men tend to be wealthy, that those with pristine morning rituals often command industries, ideas, and influence? Remember, it is not coincidence, it is law. He who controls the beginning controls the whole. The ritual of self-respect. When you keep a morning ritual, you are not just organizing time, you are honoring yourself. You are sending a signal to your subconscious. I am worthy of excellence. I am worthy of power. I am worthy of a life that reflects clarity, intention, and greatness. But when you hit snooze, skip the structure, rush into chaos, you are saying something else. I am not in control. I belong to impulse. I follow what is easy. And this is not neutral. It is spiritual corrosion. Every skipped morning is a chip against your self-image. Every lazy start is a vote for mediocrity. But every sacred structured morning is a spiritual investment, one that compounds in self-trust, internal peace, and personal magnetism. Yes, magnetism. Because people are drawn to those who move from center, to those who are governed not by trend, but by truth. And that truth is born, built, and rooted in the first hour of the day. A man with a morning system cannot be manipulated. Let the world rage. Let the news shout. Let the market fluctuate. Let the critics mock. You have already built your identity before the first email arrived. You are not behind the curve, you are ahead of it. You are not seeking direction, you are giving it. This is the real reward of morning mastery, freedom from manipulation. You are no longer jerked around by urgency, you are not pulled by trends, you are not infected by gossip, fear, or distraction. You are stable, you are planted. You are the one in the room who knows what he's doing, because he knew what he was doing before the room even existed. The morning is the mirror of the man. If I could take a snapshot of your first hour upon waking, I would know who you are not by what you say you value, but by what you actually do. Do you rise in silence or reach for noise? Do you write your vision or check your notifications? Do you create or consume? Do you lead yourself or delay your becoming? You do not need to announce who you are becoming. Let your morning announce it. Let your ritual declare it. Let your consistency be the loudest voice in the room. Because make no mistake, results cannot be faked, wealth cannot be hacked, greatness cannot be faked. They are earned in the dark when no one is watching, when the alarm rings and the lower self begs you to stay comfortable, and you say, "Number, I have work to do." The final conquest. You versus you. There are no enemies outside greater than the ones within. And every morning you are offered a fresh battleground, a place to meet the weaker version of yourself and defeat him, not with rage, not with shame, but with ritual. You beat the old self by outperforming him every morning. You beat the emotional self by showing up, even when you feel nothing. You beat the reactive self by planning before the day starts. You beat the chaotic self by guarding your inputs, your space, your schedule. And in doing so quietly, powerfully, you become unstoppable. So, if you want to be a millionaire, do not start with your bank account. Start with your morning, because that is where the true riches begin. And when others ask you how you did it, when they say, "You changed," you will look them in the eye and say, "I mastered the first hour so I could master my whole life." There are two types of men who walk this earth. The first waits for conditions. He waits for motivation to strike like lightning. He waits for clarity, for approval, for a perfect alignment of stars before he moves. And so he dies waiting full of potential but empty of legacy. The second man, he does not wait, he awakens. He awakens to the truth that the most powerful force in the universe is decision. He does not rise because he feels like it. He rises because he commanded himself to rise. He does not train his body because he enjoys pain. He trains because he respects himself too much to live small. He does not write his goals because he wants attention. He writes because he refuses to live an aimless life. This second man, he is rare, but he is real. And if you are hearing these words, and they awaken something inside you, then perhaps you are not as far from him as you think. Understand this. Every morning you are building proof that you are who you said you would become, and the mind is keeping score. It remembers, it tallies every choice. And when the time comes to make bold moves, to ask for the raise, to step into leadership, your subconscious will either say, "You have no right," or it will thunder, "You were made for this." And that decision of how your mind responds was made in the small, early hours of thousands of invisible mornings. Let me tell you something else the world has forgotten. Confidence is not something you're born with. Confidence is earned through alignment, when your habits match your goals, when your behavior echoes your words, when your action proves your identity. That is why the morning is sacred, because it is the one time of day when the world is silent enough for you to hear the quiet whisper of your higher self, not the ego, not the critic, not the coward, but the man you are meant to be. The man you already are, but who has been buried beneath distraction, noise, excuses, and delay. You must dig him out. And the tool is ritual. The tool is discipline. The tool is that ruthless commitment to show up every single morning, especially when no one is watching, especially when no one is clapping, especially when you feel nothing at all because you know what is on the other side. And what is on the other side? Dominion, peace, clarity, wealth not just of finance, but of presence, of freedom, of a spirit untethered from the chaos of the world. You become untouchable. Not because you have no problems, but because you do not bow to them. Your mind becomes a fortress, not impenetrable to fear, but trained to face it with composure. Your heart becomes unshakable, not because it never breaks, but because it heals with purpose. And people will notice, they will feel it. They will not know what changed. They will say, "You look different, you speak with weight, you walk with something I can't explain." And you will not need to explain, because your presence will be a sermon your lips never need to preach. That's what happens when a man masters his mornings. His energy speaks before he does. His reputation precedes his resume. His alignment radiates through every conversation, every deal, every room. Do not misunderstand, this is not hype, this is not theory, this is the outcome of law, the law that governs cause and effect, the law that makes no exceptions. If you do the work, you rise. If you neglect it, you fall. And what is the greatest work? Not the emails, not the marketing, not the meetings, but the inner construction of the self. Because the man who has not built himself will eventually collapse under the weight of success. But the man who has mastered his state, mastered his time, mastered his rituals, he can carry empires on his shoulders and still walk with peace. So when others chase hacks and shortcuts and gimmicks, you return to your temple. You rise early. You speak truth. You train your mind. You align your body. You anchor your vision. And when you step into the world, you do so as a weapon of focus, forged in fire. This is how millionaires are made. Not in the market, not on social media, but in silence, before sunrise, in solitude, when no one is clapping, when no one is watching, when only you and God and your discipline are awake. And if you keep doing it, if you make this who you are, not just what you try, then one morning you will wake up not just early, but awakened. And you will realize wealth was never the goal. Becoming this version of you was the goal all along. And when that moment arrives, when the new self is no longer something you chase, but something you are, you will feel it not in applause, not in numbers, but in the silence. The silence that follows when you no longer second-guess your worth. The silence that comes when anxiety no longer steers your decisions. The silence of no longer needing to explain yourself to people who never understood your vision. That silence is sacred. That silence is the reward of self-command. Because the man who governs himself needs no defense. He has nothing to prove. He is not pulled into noise because he has built his life upon principle. He is not seduced by trends because his values are older than fashion. He is not distracted by conflict because he has trained for peace. And peace, my friend, is not the absence of pressure. It is presence under pressure. That is why I tell you there is no amount of money that compares to waking up and knowing you are free from yourself, free from the inner critic that once ruled you, free from the impulsive boy who once sabotaged your future, free from the approval addict who used to contort himself to please the mediocre. And this freedom was not given to you. You did not find it in a book. You did not stumble upon it in a seminar. You forged it in the dark before the sun rose, before anyone else believed in you. You forged it by making your mornings a sacred covenant. You said, I will no longer negotiate with weakness. I will no longer wait for permission. I will rise and become what I was too afraid to imagine. That's when everything changed. You see, success is not a treasure at the end of the map. It is the result of who you must become in order to walk the map. The riches are in the reconstruction of the man himself. And let me speak clearly now, because this is for the few who can hear it. You were not born for comfort. You were not born to float in the lukewarm soup of average. You were not born to run from fear, to explain your doubts, to play small so others won't feel threatened. You were born to burn off the layers of conditioning, weakness, addiction, and hesitation, to burn with purpose, with vision, with silent fire that never flickers under pressure, to burn so brightly with intentionality that those around you cannot help but wake up to their own potential. But that fire does not come from hoping. It comes from habits. And the first habit is how you rise, how you face yourself when there are no witnesses, how you show up for the unseen hours. So let this be written on the walls of your soul. If you lose your morning, you lose your mind. If you lose your mind, you lose your direction. If you lose your direction, you lose your life. But if you master the morning, you master the mind. You master the mind, you master emotion. You master emotion. You master decision. You master decision. You master destiny. Do you see the sequence? It always begins in the unseen. It always begins when no one is looking. It always begins in those sacred early hours where you choose whether to lead or to follow, whether to rise or retreat, whether to become or to delay your becoming for one more empty day. And the world? The world is not waiting. It belongs to those who claim it, to those who earn its trust through discipline, silence, structure, sacrifice, to those who stop explaining and start executing. And execution begins in the morning. So now you know. The real wealth is not just dollars in your account. It is knowing with unshakable certainty that you are no longer at war with yourself, that your mind is your ally, that your emotions report to your mission, that your actions reflect the man you said you'd be. And if you are not there yet, do not panic. Just begin again, tomorrow morning, before the world awakes, before your doubts turn the volume up, before your fears find their footing, before the world remembers your name, you remember your purpose. Stand, breathe, write, declare, move, become, and in time quicker than you think, you will no longer have to chase the life you want. You'll be living it, not because you were lucky, but because you were loyal to your rituals, to your principles, to your power. Let others sleep in confusion. You rise in command. The sun does not ask for permission to rise. It does not consult the clouds, nor ask the wind if today is a good day to shine. It simply fulfills its purpose every single morning without failure. That is how you must live, as a force of nature, not a figure of hesitation, because you are not just a man. You are order in a world of chaos. You are clarity in a culture of noise. You are ritual in a society that worships randomness. And every time you choose to rise with discipline, you are declaring war not against others, but against the version of you that once bowed to weakness. You are rejecting the seduction of comfort. You are confronting the lie that you are not ready. You are burning the bridge to your former self. And you are building one sacred morning at a time, a man the world cannot shake. Let others sleep while you sharpen. Let others wander while you plan. Let others scroll while you write history with your own hands. Because the truth is this: you were never meant to follow. You were meant to lead yourself first so powerfully that others can't help but rise just by watching your example. You do not need more information. You do not need another book, another guru, another shortcut. You need structure. You need the silence. You need the fire. You need a standard so high, so sacred, that anything beneath it feels like betrayal to the man you're becoming. So what will you do? Will you go back to sleep, back to comfort, delay, half-truths, small goals? Or will you stand? Will you stand like a monument of discipline in a world that bows to distraction? Will you rise tomorrow not like a man dragging his feet through obligation, but like a king returning to his throne? Because make no mistake, your throne has been waiting. Your greatness was never gone. It was simply buried beneath your habits. Dig it out with breath, with stillness, with ink, with blood, with sweat, with the sacred, uncompromising power of a morning done right. Because once you understand this, you'll never go back. Your mind is the throne. Your emotions are the servants. Your rituals are the walls. Your mornings are your kingdom. Guard it, build it, and rule it like a man worthy of the empire he is destined to create. You don't need $1 million to feel like a millionaire. You need command. You need consistency. You need a code. And that code begins at dawn. Now go. The alarm clock is no longer your enemy. It is your summons. Answer it. Rise. And become the man whose life looks exactly like his vision, because he already lives inside you. You just have to wake him up before the world wakes. Because there comes a moment in every man's life when he must stop asking what he could become and decide. Not wish, not hope, not journal, not fantasize. Decide. Decide that enough is enough. That average will no longer be tolerated. That the war with procrastination ends today. That mediocrity is no longer an option. It is the enemy. That moment, this moment is now. Because if not now, when? If not you, who? You are standing at the crossroads, the same crossroads that every great man has stood at before glory kissed his name. And there are two paths. One comfortable, familiar, lined with justifications, excuses, and good intentions. It's the road of tomorrow, of maybe, of when I feel like it. That road leads somewhere. It leads to regret. The second path? It's steep. It's quiet. It's lonely. But it is holy, because it is walked by those who dare to govern themselves. It is the road of the few who rise when others sleep, the few who show up when others shrink, the few who build in silence, master their mornings, and walk into the world with fire in their chest and steel in their spine. You know which path you must take. You've always known. So I ask you now, not as a voice in your ear, but as the voice of your own higher self, are you ready to rise for real? Not for a week, not for the dopamine rush, but for the rest of your life. Are you ready to become so consistent, so calm, so locked into purpose that nothing can move you off center? Because that's what it takes. You want the world to pay attention? Then master your morning. You want to command respect without saying a word? Then master your state. You want a life of wealth, peace, power, freedom? Then master your inner world before the outer world ever sees you. You want to silence the voice of doubt once and for all? Then give it no space to speak. Fill your hours with excellence. Fill your mornings with order. Fill your thoughts with fire. And give the version of you that still plays small nowhere to live. This is your time. This is your line in the sand. This is the morning when the boy dies and the king awakens. Let the weak sleep. Let the world drift. Let the dreamers talk. You rise. You rise like the sun without asking. You rise like the warrior without hesitation. You rise like the ruler of your life, because you are. And the world, it will adjust. Because the man who commands himself commands everything. Let this be the last day you question your potential. Let this be the first morning of the rest of your empire. Get up, lock in, and walk like the man you were born to be, because he is waiting, and he will only appear when you do.